Okay, hello and welcome everybody to a special pre-Passover session titled How is it possible to celebrate Passover in light of October 7th? And um, there's a lot that I want to share with you. And the truth of the matter is, the first thing I want to share, and this is really the crux of my whole class, I am feeling ambivalent. I'm sure you are as well. Yom Tov is coming. Monday night, Pesach is always such a joyous occasion. It's such a fun occasion. It's supposed to be, at least. We try to make it such fun for the kids or grandchildren, perhaps if you have grandchildren. And it's a time of coming together as a family. It's a time of celebration. It's a time where the nostalgia is the heart and center of this night. It might be your grandmother's chicken soup. It might be your great aunt's desserts, whatever it might be. There's this sense of fondness, of looking back, of remembering a childhood, perhaps, and it being joyful. It being joyful. My endearing Passover memory. This is embarrassing, but if you've taken my classes before, you know that I just end up telling you my embarrassing personal stories. That's basically what I do over my classes. But my personal enduring Passover memory is sitting next to my first cousin. We lived one road away from each other, and we grew up almost. He's 2 years older than me. We were inseparable. Every single weekend playing tennis at our local tennis in the park. It was like pickup games, and we just played for hours and hours and hours on end every Sunday. And we were sat one year at the table, and we were laughing, and we just couldn't stop laughing with each other. And in our laughter, one of us like hit the table because we were just laughing so much. A Haggadah was perfectly balanced on the edge of the table, and when one of us hit the table like this, we clipped the edge of the Haggadah. The Haggadah then went spiraling across the room. And if we were laughing already, we were crying tears of laughter. And as I think of like Haggadah and Passover, it's that silly memory of just enjoying the love and embrace of family and the laughter with my first cousin. And this is the stuff of my childhood. And yet we are coming now to a very different Seder table. We're coming to a very different Pesach because we are celebrating this Pesach knowing that the state of Israel is now 6 months into the longest war in its history, in its 75-year history. And we have 130 hostages that are still in captivity. And when I was thinking of a pre-Passover class, the immediate title for this class wasn't, let's say something clever about the four sons, or let me show you a rabbinic insight into why we lean to the left when we drink our cups of wine. It was, how are we supposed to do this? How are we supposed to celebrate? How are we supposed to have the joy? How are we supposed to have the laughter when actively right now there are our brothers and sisters underground in tunnels in Gaza being abused and worse? And it's that jarring dichotomy of the tragedy and at the same time what's supposed to be a celebration that I would like to speak to you about today. So this, by way of an introduction, is what I want to speak about. And by way of a second introduction, I want to give a second introduction of some thoughts and some ideas. And then for the heart of the session today, for the body of the session today, I want to go through some classic parts of the Haggadah and reread them in light of our new reality. So that's the heart of this session. By a second introduction, I'll say the following. I think we're going to sit at our Seder tables and we are going to begin the Seder differently. We're going to begin the Seder differently, almost a new question, if you will. Like, why is this Pesach different than every other Pesach? And the answer is that our happiness is tempered with this loss and this pain and this frustration and this sadness and this anxiety over this war that we are seeing and even escalating, as we saw on Saturday night with Iran's attack. And on this Pesach, we're going to remember the set tables which appeared around the world, which had empty chairs surrounding them, which was a gesture to mark each hostage that was held in Gaza. And as we gather around our tables with our family and loved ones, hopefully, we're also going to remember those empty tables that were set around the world. And it could be maybe you'll leave a chair open at your Seder table. And it could be that maybe you'll go to your computer and print out a photograph of one of the hostages that are still held hostage. And perhaps you can even put that photo in that table setting where the empty chair will be. Because the heart of the Passover Seder is for one thing and one thing only, for our children to ask us, why is this night different? Everything we do is to prompt the question, why are you doing something different this night? What? You don't ever do that. We never do this. Why are you doing it differently this night? And once that question has been asked, we've almost achieved what Pesach is all about. There's a curiosity. There's questions which are being raised. You realize that there's something not regular, not usual about this evening. And we will sit down and we will speak of those who we've lost, and we'll speak of those whose homes were destroyed, and we'll speak of the soldiers who have tragically lost their lives trying to protect and defend and fight for our freedom. And as best as we can, we will remember not only our exile in Egypt, but we'll remember these last 6 months that we have been struggling through and living through. And we will tell our children that the Jewish story is about fighting against injustice. The Jewish story is about seeing hatred and persecution everywhere that it exists, in order to fight against it. That's Judaism in a nutshell. That is Judaism in a nutshell. Why were we sent down to Egypt to be slaves and persecuted? So we would be hypersensitive to knowing the inner soul of what it means to experience injustice. So that, this idea is taken from my teacher, Rabbi Sachs, so that when we ourselves would see injustice, we would fight against it. There's a beautiful quote from Rabbi Sachs. He said, Judaism is a religion of memory, and we remember the Exodus annually, even daily, but we don't do so for the sake of the past. We do so for the sake of the future. And I find that very powerful. We remember the difficulties we have gone through, not for the sake of the past, but rather for the sake of the future. And with this second introduction, I want to go through and highlight some of the sections of the Haggadah, some of the more famous sections of the Haggadah, and to see if we can bring and add some additional meaning and texture to our Seder this year. So far, are you with me? Is everyone okay? This is my introduction. These are my two introductions. Okay, so let's go. We'll start with Karpas. Can you see my screen? Okay. If anyone would like these pages, these notes, I'm happy to send them to you afterwards. As we dip the Karpas in salt water, we think of all the tears we've shed this year. Here is a quote from Rachel Goldberg Polin that she read out in her speech to the United Nations on December 14th. If you haven't seen Rachel's speech at the United Nations on December 14th, you have to look it up on YouTube. It's worthy. It's worthy of like sending out to your family members before Seder night just to listen to her. Here is one line she said. I have cried a million tears. This is back in December. We're now April. I have cried a million tears. We all have, All those tears, our sea of tears, they all taste the same. Can we take them, gather them up, remove the salt, and pour them over our desert of despair and plant one tiny seed? A seed wrapped in fear, trauma, pain, war, and hope, and see what grows. One tiny seed. That's an exceptional quote. That's an exceptional line. So I might read out that line this year at my Seder when we come to Karpas. We are dipping a vegetable. As you know, it's right at the very beginning. We take a vegetable and we dip it into salt water. This is the Karpas. It's to symbolize the tears that we cried in Egypt. It's to symbolize the bitterness that our lives were made and embittered by the taskmasters in Egypt. This is not a story happening to someone else. This is so key. If you remember anything from today's presentation, remember this line. This is not someone else a long time ago. This is you and me right now. Okay? This is you and me right now. I am blessed, Baruch Hashem, I am blessed with a rambunctious 6-year-old daughter. She can be a handful, Baruch Hashem, but what's the alternative? She has leadership qualities. That's what I'm told to say. She is a leader. She has leadership qualities. That's the other way of saying it. And she's amazing. She's amazing. And she's at the cusp of starting to not believe me anymore when I say this to her. But every single year, and I've said this to her since she was born. In truth, I've said this to all of my children since they were born. It would be coming up in the weeks before Pesach, and I would say, you and I were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. And my younger, she's on the cusp. She's about to stop believing me. But until now, she looks at me and she's like, really? And I say, yes. We were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. She's like, I don't remember. I'm like, I know. It was a while ago. And she's smart. So she said, we built the pyramids, right? And I'm like, yes, exactly. We built the pyramids. We did. She's like, I don't remember. And I said, but Hashem brought us out of slavery and now we're free. And for a moment, it might only be a few seconds, her eyes lock with my eyes. And I know she gets it. I know she gets it. You don't have to write an essay on freedom. You don't have to be a philosopher. You don't have to be at the level of a PhD to understand existential freedom. You just have to be a child. And you have to have a moment of honesty. And you have to have a moment where your heart is open. And their hearts are open to be able to say, we were slaves. By the way, this is a quote. This is the opening quote of the Haggadah. Don't think I'm being cute, and don't think, well, that's intellectually dishonest. Aren't you lying to? This is the opening line of the Haggadah. We start Passover by saying, we are slaves to Pharaoh. This year, we are slaves. Next year, we are free. This year, slaves to Pharaoh. Next year, we are free. And it's not just a line, okay? It's so much more than, it's so real. If you let it be real. Now, unfortunately, my kids, they get older than 6 and they start to lose a little bit of that innocence and wonder at the world. But it's a story that's true. And so when we're dipping the vegetable into the karpas, this is not a story of someone else, someplace else, sometime else. It's our story. And it's also right now. Which brings us to halach ma'anya. To halach ma'anya. Again, right at the very beginning, some of you have a custom of singing this. I don't halach ma'anya di achalu ahavtana be'ara de Mitzrayim. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound familiar? Oh, you know what? You probably know. Oh, I know what you know. You know. Halach ma'anya, dia chalo avatana. Halach ma'anya. Does that sound familiar? No? Have you got a different tune than me? Does it? If I say Halach ma'anya, is a song like forming in your mind?
Well, I know what you're
a different tune.
You have a
Maybe a
different
different
tune?
tune, but I know what you're referring. But I know
You know, of course, yeah. Hershey, give me your tune, Hershey. What tune?
Halach ma'anya diachalu avatana diara de mitzrayim kol difrin yeteveho kol difrin yetevisa.
Amazing. I got a very strong nod from Elaine there. Okay, amazing. All
that's
right.
their generation. I know a different generation. I know a different one too.
Emily, do you want to share it with us?
But I can't even say the whole thing. I literally know the first few words and then
Give me the
that's
first few words. Give me the first few words.
it. Lauren can say it. I just halach manya dia gluotanya, whatever. That's the way. That's what I know.
Okay, I've got another
Yeah.
nod from Elaine. Okay, Elaine, clearly you are the lady who recognizes all of these tunes. Good for you. Good for you, Emily, for being brave there. Halach ma'anya. This year we are at war in Israel. Our hostages taste the bitterness of captivity and eat only the bread of affliction. Tonight, as we gather in our homes, our soldiers are protecting Israel's borders. Let this too be a night of God's protection. Spelling mistake there. It was for God a night of vigil to bring them out of the land of Egypt. That same night is God's night, one of vigil for all Israel throughout the ages. This is the line that we quote in the Haggadah. And you can say to everybody at the table, on this night, our hostages and our soldiers sit in darkness, and our extended Israeli family sit in uncertainty and anxiety. Next year, may all of our hostages, soldiers, and citizens enjoy the freedom to sit at the Pesach table under God's sheltering peace. This is another way of bringing to light what it means when we say, you know, this year we eat the bread of affliction, and it's contrasted. This year we're here, next year may we be in the land of Israel. This year we're slaves, next year we're free. This year we are X, and next year we are Y. So this is the halach ma'anya. Yeah, I'm absolutely going to send these to you. If I can, this is a little, there's a comment here. We need to keep in mind we've got little children at the table. Yes, you're absolutely right. All of this has to be age responsible. A child has to be in their teens. Yeah, you're right. If there are little children there, then it would be perhaps frightening to bring up something which would be overwhelming and too difficult. At the same time, we want everybody to know that the Jewish people, especially in Israel, but around the world, in Montreal, the anti-Semitism that has been seen on university campuses, in the streets of Montreal, this is a reality. The educational power comes through targeting each age responsibly. So that is absolutely correct. Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. I want to share something with you. This is a little personal, but I'm happy sharing it with you. I had an incredible day today, and today I was fortunate and truly blessed to be able to send off for his induction my cousin who went into the Israeli army today. This is an unbelievable thing, a truly unbelievable thing. It's very, very meaningful. It's very, very powerful for our family. And I didn't realize, but actually there is one central location where all soldiers are sent on the day of their induction into the army. And from there, buses pick them up and take them to their base for the first night ever. So when we are saying halach ma'anya, this is the bread of affliction that we ate next year may we be free. And I'm talking about wherever our hostages are held and wherever our soldiers are currently fighting, next year may they be at peace. There's very much on my mind this sense of our cousin who we sent into the army today. So I was literally in an army base this morning. Can you see that? Let me see if I can make it a full-size screen. This is our cousin Natan. Do you see my screen? So this is our cousin Natan. This is the first time that he is wearing his army uniform, amazingly. He has an older brother. His older brother just finished his army service. And here is there is our daughter, and that's me. Do you still see my screen? Are you able to pick that up? No, yes, you can see it. Okay. And then there is his brother. Natan's brother is called Benji, and here are the two of them embracing as he is saying goodbye to him. Benji just finished his army service 2 months ago. He was fighting in Gaza, and now here is Natan, who is he is going in. So an incredible scene. And if I can share just one final scene with you as we speak about as we speak about the soldiers, as we speak about the Chayalim, here is one more that I'll share with you. This is a tiny little clip of what was taking place this morning. Hopefully you would be able to pick up the volume as well. So what you have there is just from a few hours ago. I was moved to tears. These are young men, 18, 19 years old, who are not only joining the army, but doing so with a sense of commitment and passion and dedication and absolute wanting to give the best years of their lives to the state, to the Jewish people. It's a really an emotional and really exceptional moment. So to be able to come to Halach Ma'anya, this year we are eating the bread of affliction. Look at the hostages, look at the soldiers. Next year may we be free. This is right front and center for me. Let's move on. I want to come to the 4 questions. You know that we have the 4 questions. There's a 5th question. Why is this year different than all other years? On all other years, we celebrate our redemption from Egypt. This year, we also pray for Israel's redemption from the hands of terrorists and the forces of hate. May each hostage be freed from bondage, and may the plague of Jew hatred be eliminated once and for all on this very night. And this is an additional question. Why is this year different than all other years? But here is a piece that I want you to share at your Seder, which is, what question is most on your mind tonight? And go around the table and say to people, we've had the 4 questions. On all other nights, we don't dip at all. Here we're dipping twice. On all other nights, we never lean, and now we're leaning. On all other nights. But say to people, what's your question tonight? What's on your mind? What's on your mind? And that could be as prosaic as what's going to be, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen with Canadian politics, what's going to happen with Canadian anti-Semitism, what's going to happen with university campuses at McGill and Concordia, what's going to be the reality for Jewish students on CEGIP over this next few weeks and months. The questions could be of geo-global politics. What's going to be happening with Iran? When is Israel going to strike back? Is Israel going to strike back? Should Israel strike back? Don't think that getting sidetracked into global geopolitics is losing the sense of the Seder. This is what the Seder is about. What's going to happen to our people? Are the hostages, and then the hardest questions of all, are the hostages still alive? Should we be swapping prisoners for the hostages' lives? By the way, I want to share with you one more comment, Elaine, and then I'll take your question. I want to share with you that we hear very loudly the move that the hostages should be worked out a deal with a hostage swap in terms of the hostages for terrorist prisoners. A recent poll in Israeli society voted that the #1 priority for the majority of Israelis is to destroy Hamas first and foremost. That is their primary desire, and the freeing of hostages came in as #2. And I share this with you because it's a very difficult statistic. It's a very difficult statistic because we all want the hostages home. We all want the hostages home. To the degree that Israelis are prepared to release terrorists in order to free the hostages, it then becomes more complex in terms of just how many Israelis are prepared to do that and to what degree are they prepared to do that. And I share this with you because this is one of the heartbreaking dilemmas that is at the core of what's gripping Israeli society today. Does everybody believe that every hostage should be freed for a no matter what compromise? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. And that's a question. Go around the table. Ask your people at the table. Again, Elaine, if it's relevant and age specific. What do you think? What do you think about that? And that's a fair question. Elaine, you wanted to ask something. Please unmute yourself and please.
Okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to say that a few days ago from the Kollel Torah Mitzion in Montreal,
Yeah.
I got Rabbi David Lau, the chief rabbi of Israel, has put out a prayer
Yes.
to be said at the Seder. So I've printed it out. One side is the Hebrew and the other side is the English.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say, since you spoke about the hostages, this morning I listened to the Jewish Agency, and I listened to everything I can listen to, and they had Yigal Palmor on, and he was excellent, and he was saying that it's very clear at this point that Hamas does not want a deal. You know, he said, like, they went from saying they'll release 40 hostages to 20 hostages. They said it has to come with a total withdrawal from Gaza, ceasing all hostilities, returning, allowing the return of civilians back to the north of Gaza.
Right.
And he said something I think we should keep in mind is that now Hamas seems to see the hostages as a psychological pressure on Israelis, that they want to break Israel from the inside, like to break the spirit of the people. And going along with that is why Hezbollah is increasing attacks, and Iran has the Houthis and everything. And as far as Hamas is concerned, all their dead go to heaven anyways. They're all martyrs. So they're, anyway, it was something interesting to listen.
This is the great struggle that we currently are up against, in that this is such a cruel and vicious enemy. It's working on breaking our spirit. And that is what is making this so devastating and so hard. Yeah. Let me continue looking at the children. We know the Arba Banim, there are the 4 sons or the 4 children. the fifth child. Let me share a new idea with you. What does the captive child ask? We know, and this is so heartbreaking, that there are children among the captives. What does the captive child ask? When will I be back in the loving hold and shield of my family? And there's that verse in the Torah, with a mighty hand did God bring us out of Egypt, with an outstretched arm, an awesome power, and with signs and wonders. And we pray, with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, may God bring back every hostage home. And again, I have here another question that you can ask at your table. If God were to provide a mighty hand and an outstretched arm to you, what one miracle would you hope for?
Oh my God, that's horrible.
It really is.
I
It
don't
really is.
know.
It really is. We're going to finish more positively, Emily. Don't worry. But right now, this is heavy. This is hard. What miracle would you hope for? And you go around your table and you ask the people at your table. You engage with the people in your table. You get them to speak up. You get them to say, what would you hope for? Next, Vehi she'amda. Vehi she'amda. Let me read the Vehi she'amda in our Haggadahs. That which stood for our ancestors applies to us as well. For it was not only one person who rose up against us to destroy us, but rather in every generation there are those who rise up against us to destroy us. But the Holy One redeems us from their hands. This is a famous part of the Haggadah. Some people have the custom to hold up a cup of wine for this. Some people have a custom to stand for this. There was a modern Israeli pop star who, a number of years ago, Yonathan Ryel turned this into a song. I'm sure you're familiar with the song. If not, you will look it up on YouTube. Vehi she'amda lavoteinu, Vehi she'amda lavoteinu v'lanu. Does this sound familiar? Shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lachalotenu, amad aleinu lachalotenu. Look it up on YouTube. Here, where is the chat? Here, Yonathan Ryel. Ryel. Oi, I think that's the spelling. I put Yonathan Ryel. I think that's the spelling. But copy and paste his name from the chat if you wish. Put it in YouTube and put Vehi she'amda. Talented musician, beautiful musician, one of the famous pop stars. One of the famous, okay, great. You looked it up. Fantastic. So one of the famous pop stars in Israel, and he wrote that particular song. It's extremely powerful. You can have it playing, as you're making your chicken soup over the next few days. We sing it. We sing it in our table when we come to Vehi she'amda. And those are the words of the Haggadah. It was not only one person who rose up against us to destroy us, but rather in every generation, b'chol dor v'dor, there were those who rise up against us to destroy us, but the Holy One, blessed be He, redeems us from their hands. And again, if that's true, so then look at what we have, look at what we can say now. If it's every generation, then what about our generation? What about this year? What about our year? They rose up on October 7th to destroy us, as they tried to destroy us before. They planned, they plotted, they schemed, they kidnapped, they murdered. But we have risen up against them in this generation with a state of our own, an army of our own, and a voice of our own in the halls of power. We will not be defeated. We will not be defeated. Again, this is real. This is happening to us. This isn't, in every generation, they rose up against, before recent years, we would have read that line in Vehi she'amda, and you know what we would have said? This is some line that relates to a different time and a different era. You know, for those who have Holocaust survivors in your family, that's where your mind would have gone. If you're a child or a descendant of a Holocaust survivor, when you would have read Vehi She'amda, you would have thought of your parents or grandparents. In every generation, they rose up to try and destroy us. And we who have lived in Canada, in England, us who have been born into a generation of freedom, might not have easily understood Vehi She'amda. And now we're saying these words, and suddenly it's 6 months ago that this is our reality. But here comes my question. Here comes my question for the Seder table. Name an evil or injustice you stood up against this past year. So I'm sure that as I'm talking to you, many of you were at a rally downtown. There were many rallies downtown for the Jewish community. I know that someone was telling me that in Hampstead Park, there's a Sunday morning walk that members of the Jewish community have been going on, I believe, on Sunday mornings. You may have written letters to members of the Canadian government. You may have been involved in some of the activities, even at the Shah, whether it was the Build-A-Bear activity we did right back at the beginning. There were trauma dolls that were stitched together and stuffed by children at the Shah, and I actually took 2 duffel bags full of them and sent them to a trauma hospital here in Israel. Ask people around the table, what have you stood up against this year? And that is empowering. That's incredibly powerful, because it gives people a sense of, I'm not just a passive person in this, but rather I actually try to do something against this. Hang on, there's something in the chat here. Suggest listening to Chief Rabbi Goldstein on searching for meaning in a post-October 7th Pesach. Okay, good. Thank you, Elaine. Elaine's giving another resource in the chat there. Let's go further. And they afflicted us. And they afflicted us. This is the Magid section as we come into reliving and what it was that happened. So take a look at this. Again, print this off. I'm going to send this to you. If you want me to, send me your email address in the chat, and I'll happily send you my source sheet. You can print this off, and you can put this in different people's Haggadahs and ask people to read it. They afflicted us by crossing borders, sending rockets to destroy our playgrounds, snatching our young and old, giving us hope for family reunions and then rescinding it. They afflicted us by reducing homes to rubble and unsettling tens of thousands who waited months and are still waiting to rebuild their lives. We met their affliction with the communal bonds of loving kindness and charity. Across the world, we offered compassion and unprecedented tenderness. Another verse that we talk about. And we cried out to the Eternal, our God of our ancestors, and we are still waiting for the Eternal to hear our voices, our protests, our cries, our late night prayers, and our early morning petitions, our sorrows and our oppression. And the Lord heard our voice and saw our affliction and our toil and our duress. And here is the question on this particular section that I wanted you to potentially raise to people around the table. In what way have you grown as a result of suffering this past year? I want to share something with you. You know, in your core, I want to share something with you. You absolutely feel in your kishkas. And that is, and it's a paradoxical and it's a sad reality. Through suffering, we grow. You know this to be true. No one asks for suffering. No one wishes for suffering. No one invites it upon it, and no one ever wants it. And a core truth is through suffering we grow. I have heard, I'm sure you have too, your friends, your family, the Montreal community, people would have been saying, I've never been more proud to be Jewish than I am today. Right? Do you feel that way? Have you heard people say that to you? I have never been more proud to support the state of Israel or proud of the state of Israel than I am today. I've never been more proud of the IDF than I am today. I've never been more proud to be a Jew than I am today. That's an incredible moment of growth that so many have had. And unfortunately, it's had because of the suffering. So go around the table and ask people, in which way have you grown as a result of the suffering of this past year? Two more and we'll finish. B'chol dor vador, in every generation. B'chol dor vador is that section of the Haggadah where it says, in every generation, a person is obligated to see themselves as if they have come out of Egypt. In every generation, we relive our past and we find today's heroes. These are the men and women who have dedicated themselves in these long hours to name evil, to stand up to it, and who give their very lives to its eradication. Let's pause for a moment of silence to honor these heroes of Jewish continuity and bravery who appear in every generation. My mind goes to the Chayalim, obviously, the soldiers. These are for me, these are the greatest heroes of our generation. But my mind also goes to those who have been trying to make an impact on social media. We live in a very twisted and hate-filled social media world today. And when we think of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, and we think of how it's spread and maliciously, how social media is used so terribly for negative, my mind also goes to those social media personalities who have been trying as much as they possibly could to support Israel, to talk about the truth, to actually present the facts and to spread what is the reality and not the lies and the libel. But you can ask at your table, name a hero of this war, and why is this person a hero to you? I think that's very inspiring. Name a hero of this war. I mean, Elon Levy has to be on everybody's list this year. Hopefully you've come across Elon Levy. He was, unfortunately, up until recently, the official government spokesperson for the Prime Minister's office, and then in a rather startling development was then fired from his role. But Elon Levy is one of the greats of social media who is fighting the good fight. And so many others. And ask people around your table, who for you has been a hero of this war and why? And for the last one that we'll look at today, I'll circle back to where I began with my teacher, Rabbi Sachs. Next year in Yerushalayim, Lashana Haba. I don't know about you, we dance to this. At the end of the Seder, when we sing Lashana Haba Yerushalayim Habnuya, we stand up, we get into a circle. I hold all of the children's hands, not just the children, whoever happens to be at my Seder. Whoever's at my Seder, we stand up, we dance in a circle, and Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim, Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim. Please tell me you recognize that tune. Please tell me you recognize. Okay, Baruch Hashem. One. I got one for 5 tonight in my tunes. But Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim, Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim. So we dance. And we keep going, we keep going, we keep going. Usually by that point, it's 4 glasses of wine later, we're exhausted, we're giggling a little bit, we're joyful. The animosity of the evil stares over the table because we skipped somebody's part that they wanted to say. Someone made a rude comment about the soup. Usually by the time of Lashana Habab, you have to manage the expectations. Of course, that's a number 1 rule in Seder night, manage your Seder expectations. But at this point, you can say, hope. We're always hoping for this next year in Jerusalem. And look at Rabbi Sachs here. Hope rebuilds the ruins of Jerusalem. As we sing Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim, we create an aspiration tied to our sacred city. We nurtured and grew that sacred dream at the end of every Seder in our history, as did our ancestors. As a result, we can now sing and dance in our own Jewish state and in Jerusalem's streets. May we soon gather in Jerusalem with every brave hostage and every valiant soldier to dance in the streets of Jerusalem together as a nation. We close the Seder by standing for the Hatikva. By the way, do you sing Hatikva at your Seder? I've got some nods. Yes. Okay, good. With gratitude that we have our own national anthem that sings of an enduring hope that we will always live freely in our own land. It's not too much to say, writes Rabbi Sachs, that Jews kept hope alive and hope kept the Jewish people alive.
But
question. Yes, Carol.
Question.
Yes.
We sing Hatikva and O Canada.
Very nice.
Because we're very grateful to be in Canada.
Very nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, we do the same.
Wow, that's amazing.
I have a nice piece of news from the Jewish Agency.
Yes.
Since October 7th,
yes.
12,000 mostly Westerners have made Aliyah. 12,000.
12,000.
Mostly from North America and France, also from Russia.
My question, and I wonder, is how significant is that? What were last year's numbers, or what were ordinary numbers in any given year? Yeah. That to me sounds like a massive jump, and obviously
it's 100%. It was 100% jump.
Wow.
Yeah, and they interviewed people from France, and 69% of them said that they're coming because Israel is their homeland and they want to be part of building it.
I just learnt in Efrat, in my community, there is a French-speaking minyan. I had no idea.
But
there is so much French heard on the streets of Israel today. It's incredible. Yes, Carol.
When you say they made Aliyah, are they young people? Are they families? Are they older people? Because, France does have problems. And there's a lot of people trying to leave, through the last few years. So that's curious.
They didn't say, but I know that immigration from France has been going on for a long time.
Right.
I have a friend who French is her first language, and she told me this at least 7-8 years ago, that she was so excited to finally have people she could speak French with. So
amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of French is becoming more and more popular in the streets of Israel. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to send, with your permission, I'm going to email you these sources that were put together. Questions or comments? Other thoughts or ideas? Anybody?
Thank you for whatever you're preparing us for the coming Seders, and wish you and the family and
thank you, Hershey.
Yeah, it was very inspiring.
I don't know how I'm going to get through the whole Seder without tears.
You know what? It's both. It's tears and it's the joy, and it's both. That's why this is a whole sermon, but that's why we dip the maror in the charoset.
Yeah.
Because the essence of Seder night are the tears.
Well, that's a good thing to add. We could add that into.
and the laughter. That's Pesach. Really encapsulated in one aspect of the Seder. It's the dipping of the maror into the charosa. It's Jewish history. It's Jewish destiny. It's tears and it's sweetness. And somehow
that's what life is, anyways.
yeah, and somehow we have it together. Somehow we have it.
You know what will keep you from crying if you have children at the table. Children only make you smile and laugh.
Yeah.
But you know what, Carol? Sorry, Elaine, I'm going to push back on that. It's good to cry at the Seder. It's good to cry at the Seder. There's a beginning of a Seder that is bitterness. There's a story of slavery in Egypt, and it's not slavery in Egypt. Slavery in Egypt is the buzzword for the challenges that we in our lives are living through. And since October 7th, never have we felt that more profoundly. It's okay for your children to see that there are some things worth crying over. As long as, let me bookend that, as long as your children also see that there's a Judaism that's worth celebrating over.
Yeah.
Yes, Carol.
What we've said in our Seder, and I want to say it again, we did live the last 75 years, a golden age. We had opportunities that our families, our parents did not have. We excelled. We were, yes, there were still probably limitations on different schools, but we got in. And we succeeded. And that is actually over expectations when you think that we're less than 14 million people in the world. And I bring that up at our Seder, that we did have a wonderful golden age and we were very proud. Today, we have to add what has happened now, October 7th, and the last 6 months. But we also have to remember that, yes, we have to succeed because we don't have a choice. And the numbers are very low right now in the world. The assimilation, the intermarriage, and everything else is quite great, that in 100 years from now, I'm scared really where we're going to be. So Passover has always been a bittersweet in our family, talking about survival for the Holocaust when my family did, and that we succeeded afterwards. And America and US and Canada did give us the opportunities, more so than any place else besides Israel, obviously. But we have to be very thankful for a lot, and we have to pray for peace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the general sweep, and I'll finish with this, in the general sweep of Jewish history, there is a direction that is pointing for the future of the Jewish people, and that's a hopeful future. And as we open and almost finish the Haggadah, Lashana haba be'eretz Yisrael, Lashana haba be'Yerushalayim habnuya, there will be a Jerusalem, whether that's metaphorical or literal, that will always be the home and the hope of the Jewish people. And please God, we will usher in a Pesach celebration that remembers and speaks of, and even perhaps even celebrates the hostages being freed and there being peace that comes to the land of Israel. These are our prayers and these are our hopes. And I wish you and your families a Chag Kasher v'Sameach, a happy, beautiful, sweet and healthy Passover this year. Chag Sameach, everybody.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Thank you.
Chag Sameach. Thank you so
Be
much.
well.
Thank you, Rabbi. Chag
Send us
Sameach.
those.
Be well.
Send us
All the
those.
best.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.